Nice.
Hey everybody. I don't know how well my sound is even because I'm just using this. I'm traveling right now. I'm back in Barcelona for one more night. Been performing. Anyway, welcome to the Tellman and Fellman show, episode 53. We are going to give you guys a change of pace because I know everybody's like, "Oh, election! This is America's gonna explode. It's chaos." We want to bring it back and calm you down, give you something to not just don't think about that. Like you don't have to think about that for the next half hour.
Or maybe
And
think about it differently. Maybe think about it a little differently. If you're going to be thinking about it anyway, maybe it can be a time for a wonderful opportunity, a change of pace, something new, perhaps.
All right. Well, I thought we were going to talk about the history of direct response, but
Well,
that's
yeah.
that's what I was.
We're going to talk about a little bit, dude. This morning, I'll tell you what. So what day are we? 19? Is that right?
21, baby. 3
Are
weeks.
are we on day 21? Man, that's awesome. So
Somebody doesn't have the app.
I do have the app, and I guess it sure enough, like right there, day 21, baby. I guess I just haven't been looking at the days.
I
So
thought yesterday was day 21, so I feel you.
yeah.
I mean, even though I have the app as well.
So we're 3 weeks into 75 hard, and last night my buddy Zach's like, dude, are you gonna come over for a run and a plunge this morning? And he lives on the Whetstone Brook, and so I was thankful that lately it's been like in the 20s in the morning in the last few days. And yesterday I just did not go for a run in the morning. Instead, I did yoga inside, and I went for a run when it was 50 degrees out in the afternoon. But this morning it was 51 degrees at 5:30 a.m. And so I ran over to Zach's house, which is about a mile and a half away, and we ran a loop together, and then we did a cold plunge, and we got out, and we climbed up he lives on a kind of an embankment that leads down to the brook, and we climbed up, and we were standing out, just kind of enjoying nature, enjoying the morning. His wife is in India for a couple of weeks, and so whatever, we were just hanging out, and then we were looking, and all of a sudden this giant bald eagle just flies down and goes the entire length of the brook up through the woods until it reached the very end, and then it flew up into the trees, and it was a giant one too. It was a really, really big bald eagle. And
He was heading to. They were headed to. It was headed to Washington D.C.
That's right. Anyway, I decided to look at that as a good omen for the day.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know about you, dude, but like all sorts of people in my life are just on edge. Like friends, family, people are just on edge.
It must be really hard to come to. Like mine aren't on edge. Because I'm not there. But I have American friends, and we talk about it, and they all. I don't know. It's crazy. It's a crazy week. Like I get on stage. I make fun of, what's gonna happen next week a bit. And I'm glad to be here. And I do a little thing with a party popper. I talk about gunpowder. I'm like, oh, this might not be so funny next week. So, but I don't think anything's gonna happen this week. Along those lines, I think that my prediction is, it's going to be close, and you're not going to know the answer probably until Saturday or Tuesday, and that time frame will allow some chaos and discord. Unfortunately, I think that's going to be, somebody's going to think they won and maybe they don't, and or vice versa, and I mean, I don't think any. I mean, stranger things have happened for sure, but I don't think anyone's sweeping anything, and I don't think anyone's going to be relaxed after midnight tonight.
That's right.
So
That's right. Yeah. People are pretty amped up and ramped up, and so. But here's what I am finding is that I'm finding that my internet entrepreneur friends are less stressed out and more curious about what's going to happen and how it's going to change things. Not even necessarily how or what the candidates do or don't follow through on in terms of their promises, with the next president, but more like how this election is going to change um, the marketing, the entrepreneurial, the economy environment, and like how it's going to change the game, and like what are we going to need to adapt to next? And I think that entrepreneurs in particular, but internet entrepreneurs even more so, I think like we're trained to adapt. Like you kind of have to be, right? And if you get to set in your ways for too long, as you and I have both experienced, like being in the game for a couple of decades, like it can smack you, right? If you don't keep up with change. And I don't know about you, Harris, but for me, one of the best ways to do that is just constantly be learning. And I don't mean just like reading a book, but like enrolling in a coaching program, having a coach or mentor, that I'm speaking with regularly in some capacity, in the areas that I want to improve. Like that really helps me to kind of shake things up and not.
Yeah, I think, and I think I've observed that you typically dive in pretty hard on topics. I do too. I mean, I'm more. I'm generally more. What would I say? I don't want to say opportunistic because that's not really the right thing. I don't spend too much time on stuff that I don't think I'm going to use.
Right.
And I'm not saying you do either. I mean, I think this show has enabled us to get a much wider look at stuff going on today than we would have otherwise. Sorry,
totally.
This is not a comfortable chair, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I have a lot of I've got there's a tech podcast that I listen to that talks a lot about AI. I was really surprised, a week or so ago when I relaxedly, flagrantly, I don't know, easily mentioned that AI is going to be more. It's gonna eventually be AGI, which is all. That's the level where it's human. It's smarter than a human on everything. And
What's
you're like, oh,
AGI?
Generative. I don't know what the artificial generative intelligence. I don't know. I
Okay,
think.
okay. Yeah, I don't keep that. I'm clearly don't have my finger on the pulse.
Yeah. But let me see. What's AGI stand for?
So
Yeah, artificial general intelligence, that attempt to create software with human-like intelligence and the ability to self-teach. So the aspect that it's going to be able to also, it's going to at some point get smarter than us on everything and be able to learn.
I remember. I mean, I read about this when I first heard about Ray Kurzweil.
Yeah,
like a decade and a half ago. The singularity is near, and he talks about the singularity event, which is absurdly close at this point, because of Moore's law, right? The speed at which the microchip grows smaller, cheaper, and smarter, right? More processing power is incredible. Like it essentially doubles in power and halves in cost every 18 months, and has been since the dawn, not only of the microchip, but if you look back far enough, of technology. Like this is the curve that technology moves in. And so the challenge is that we know that computers and the cloud has way more processing capability than one person's noggin. Like we're well aware of that. And that this processing ability and this ability to access virtually infinite data, right, online is, again, our brains can't directly do that. We don't have the plugins, you know what I mean? We don't have the interface.
I agree. It's definitely it is infinite data, because I've learned to identify like infinite as it's everything and growing.
Right.
Like it's as much as there is of whatever and growing. Like and it's mostly there already. So do you want to talk about the history of direct response?
Yeah, let's go. I mean, I think this is actually part of it, right? This is part of it, but it follows a similar curve, right? And so I realized this the other day after I think I had a long, stressful day, and I was driving, and I was just letting my mind wander, right? and I had this picture that popped into my mind, and it was kind of like a timeline of direct response. I've been um, yeah, I've been an email marketer for 20 years, and the the basic um, the basic lesson that I learned way back when was build a giant list, mail it often, right? Be really interesting, really relevant, really clear, and um, get your marketing message and your emails and your sales messages right. And the more email you send, the more money you make. Send more email, make more money, build a bigger list, make sure your list is growing faster than it's shrinking, and all is well. And it was for a long time until it was not anymore. And so I've had to face a harsh reality in the last few years.
That's interesting. I guess it's just hitting me now for the first time that that's really hitting you now because, like, during the last 6 months that we've been working together,
Yeah,
because I've been on top of email for that's the one thing I've got.
right.
I've been on top of that, so there's no surprise to me that these. I mean, 4 or 5 years ago, I saw
Well,
basically a trend towards what's necessary now.
yeah, well, what
And
was interesting is that I came up with the whole mascot method thing, right?
right,
And interestingly, I came up with that 10 years ago. I came up with it originally, the first version was 2013,
yeah,
before the clampdown really started happening, the email
yeah.
clampdown. But it was what it was is it was an answer to ever increasing reduced response in open rates and click-through rates.
Right,
And the mascot,
because everybody was doing it the way that you just talked about, which is everybody sending as many emails as they can. So now you need as
you need something else to burn through the fog, right?
right, right,
Like
which
you need,
which is still the case.
it's
Which is still
also
the
still the case. But here's what I saw. So if we go back in time, and we go all the way back to before radio was a thing and before television was a thing, the only form of direct response marketing that existed was direct mail. Okay, and that would be with ads in the newspaper,
well.
right?
Actually, let me do this. I didn't tell you I was going to do this. I do want to give Chat GPT a chance here. And we're going to go back even a little further than that. And I think you're going to be surprised at one of the things that you are correct, but I bet the time I bet the decade or the century that it started is a little bit different than you think. So first of all,
Oh, it is my working theory, right? This isn't. I'm not stating this as fact. I haven't fact checked myself on this. That's
yeah,
certainly true.
I think you'll find it interesting. So it talks about pre 20th century, ancient civilizations. The concept of selling goods through direct communication can be traced back to ancient civilizations where merchants personally advertise their wares in marketplaces. Right now, so that's where advertising begins, and that is direct, right? That is like, hey, do
Pretty
you want to
direct.
buy
Yeah,
something?
you
Here
have a
you are.
stall, and you're calling people in, and some of them respond. I mean,
Right now, jumping to the 1700s, it says postal advertising.
okay.
As postal systems became more wide, dude, I can't even like. It's so funny. Like I'm not imagining the Victorian 1700s, and they're like, oh, another
Another epistle.
flyer, But with the rise of as postal systems became more widespread, businesses began to use mail to directly communicate with potential customers. The introduction of printed materials like flyers, catalogs, and brochures started this process. So all the way back to the 1700s,
That's cool.
which
That's cool.
which is amazing. And then 1800s is when you start to see Sears and Roebuck, 1886 with the mail order catalogs. They were just,
Right.
I mean, I remember like when I was a kid,
Totally.
I didn't get the Sears and Roebuck one,
My,
but I
my
definitely got that.
grandparents in particular had the monster catalogs. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because there's nothing to do when you went to your grandparents' house except like sit down and like, you know,
yeah.
watch a couple of channels on the TV if you were lucky, and look through like these giant catalogs, right?
Yeah, especially the Victoria's Secret one.
Yeah, not in
Yeah.
my grandparents' house.
Oh, okay. No, not in your grandparents' house, right? But
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 so
anyway, and I got that one as probably a 20-something year. Not, I didn't get that one. I've seen that one, but I don't think it was Victoria's Secret. It was some other like underwear model with underwear models in it. Anyway, so go on.
so so this is interesting. So with direct mail, right? It basically is one-way communication. You send out an ad, and a percentage of people respond by sending in the order form and a check or some cash, right? And if your ad works, you run your ad more with the profits that you make, and you scale like the good old fashioned direct mail. Takes a long time, a lot of patience, and especially at the beginning, like enormous writing capability, and like there was just so many barriers and so many challenges. Not to mention just like getting something printed in the first place was like the most difficult and expensive thing ever, right? So communication went one way. Eventually, radio was a thing. And
1930s, apparently 1930s, radio and the birth of the infomercial. Radio played a huge role in shaping direct response marketing. The American Tobacco Company used radio ads to directly urge customers to purchase their product. In 1931, the direct response radio commercial for Popeye the Sailor aired as well, promoting a product by offering an immediate way to purchase.
dude, I want to hear that using Popeye as their mascot. That's pretty awesome.
I'm not sure it was the cigarette company, the first direct response commercial. I think it's saying for Popeye the Sailor, but then what was there to buy?
I don't know. Well, we all have to look it up, see if we can find a recording of it online.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
yeah.
So then we had radio, but again, it's basically one way. It's a one-way broadcast, and then they tell you how to order. And back in the day, it was probably send in $20, and a self-addressed stamped envelope, to blah blah blah, right? Use the code blah 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 to get the special discount and the bonus, right? So then we had radio, and then eventually radio turned into television, right? And again, it's a one-way communication broadcast. Infomercials are the best example of direct response, right? We're not just talking about any commercials. We're talking about scientific advertising. We're talking about commercials that have direct response built in, so people know the response of the particular ad and which ads are working, which ads aren't, so that they can keep running more of the ads that are working and less of the ones that aren't, and scale. Still, everyone's dream is to scale their business, right? This is a dream that entrepreneurs who studied marketing have had since the beginning of direct response, is the promise, the hope, the dream of scaling with this new medium, this new process, this new system, this new way of reaching people, right? But the customer is still left being commanded. Okay, the customer is still left being told what to do. And in fact, many direct response ads that are the very best are the most commanding, the most direct, the most absolute, the most certain.
What do you mean?
Room for other alternatives or variations. It's
what
like,
do you mean? What do you mean most like
what I mean is,
you mean the call to action is like do this today?
Well, maybe the call to action, but the sales letter, the infomercial, the long copy gives every single reason, tries to overcome every possible objection, tries to reason away any possible alternatives, right? It's very, and it takes a long time to cover all that information, thus long copy, right? But being convincing, commanding, directive is generally very rewarded historically in direct response, right? Not always. There are exceptions, but like I have found that in direct response copywriting, being good at being both commanding and inspiring at the same time is a people really do respond very well to it. A lot of people are looking for a leader in the area in which they're uncertain, and that's one way to lead. It's not the only way to lead, but it's one way to lead. And so,
go ahead.
I guess, and eventually after,
I feel like you have an agenda. To be honest, I feel like you're trying to get to something, and I don't know. Do we not want to do the history stuff?
Well, I mean, I guess I was just trying to explain this vision that popped into my head, and I mean, we can do the history stuff.
Okay, let's do that then.
And we can go into the different pieces certainly, but like, I definitely have like a point I'm trying to make. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I didn't mean it did mean to interrupt, because we are trying to do one of our first 30, 35-minute calls instead of hours. So
I wasn't even thinking about that. It wasn't on my mind at all.
Yeah, I don't think we can do
both.
both.
I'll fast forward, right? So the fast forward is introducing the internet, right? In the 90s, the internet comes into play, email comes into play, people start building email lists, and again, blasting those email lists, advertisements, messages, or well-written emails that are disguised advertisements,
Yep.
right? And
One directional.
for the most part, blasts, one directional emails, and
I mean, people
then
can
like,
respond to them and you'll respond back, but it's still like there's generally one thing that they're called to do, and then sometimes they might have a question and write back. And also now it's good if you
well,
get them to
now
write
it's
back on
almost
occasion.
required, right? And yeah, so what's happened is that like that one directional broadcast has started getting filtered out, right? Due to Gmail and the other large email providers that they want to give the customers, the people that are receiving the emails, a better experience and not just get bombarded with ads that they're not looking for, right? And so now suddenly, I say suddenly, but in the last several years, it becomes much more important, not just for people to reply to your emails, but to have back and forth conversation with your emails, right? People are wanting more than just getting blasted with ads, because that's all that's happening in every media, on every platform, on every social media platform. People are just inundated with ads
Great.
all day long.
Got it. Get to the
Right?
point, buddy.
Really?
Yeah, man. You've been talking about this for 8 to 10 minutes. You've covered that it's we got it. They're inundated with the one way thing.
The What I think has happened is, and we've talked about this many times, what I think has happened is, as groups have started forming online and have become more connected, I think Facebook groups really made an incredible difference in creating more community online
1,000%.
and them being free. But then again, marketers have come in and taken advantage of those, and many of the Facebook groups that are marketing driven are now dead, right?
Well, also though, think about a lot of the calls that we've been on. The Warrior Forum was brought up a lot as a lot of people's beginnings, and that was a community. That was a
That's
community
right.
of
It was a
internet
forum.
marketers before Facebook groups.
Right,
I mean,
right.
the problem with Facebook groups is you get into a Facebook group and you're going to get it's Facebook's job to keep you on Facebook and distract you with 75 other things. But anyway, so go on.
So
But
the long and short of it is, what I'm seeing is that people are wanting a leader they can trust more, because they're so inundated with ads, they don't really know who to trust, and their trust is, they're getting distracted all the time from thing to thing to thing. And I think community is genuinely the answer, and that there are some really great community platforms that are out there that are popping right now and that are rising. But I think that like the answer to webinars are dead, VSLs are dead, this type of method is dead, email is dead, is none of them are dead. What people are wanting is more and deeper connection through whatever platform you're communicating on. They want to be heard, they want to be listened to, and they want to know they can trust you and count on you. And I think what what's happening is none of these things are dying. I think leadership is becoming much more important, like genuine leadership and community leadership. Like helping
Well,
people.
I would say it's interesting that you have leadership in there. I mean, community is one thing, and I think it's trust and authenticity
Mhm.
that being, you don't have to be a lead. I think also in our lives, the idea of a leader maybe has changed. Where a leader, like I guess as I hear the word leader, I'm like the all powerful leader, the all powerful guru, and I
Mm.
think that especially 2 generations below us, our kids. Well, I guess that's 1 generation below us.
I like,
Uh,
yeah. I mean, I
I
like to.
think,
Yeah,
yeah, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Yeah, I mean, people for sure, there is no, it's very difficult to find leadership anymore, and nobody follows any one leader, on too much. So being in a community with somebody, now they can trust you. Now they can figure out that you're real. And
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that's, I mean, and with AI. really need to know when something's real now. Like,
And it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell.
I just read an article where somebody almost got scammed out of 35,000 by his own son's voice of his son's AI. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Like it almost fooled the father,
Wow.
and that's, and it's tough because look, we are already ready for the scams that come into our DMs, right?
Yeah, well, we're looking for them. You know what I mean?
We're looking for them and everything. But now, if somebody, I mean, I don't pick up a phone anyway. That'd be weird, right?
Yeah, but you
like
can take anything for free these days.
right.
I guess future reference, guys. This episode may be a little bit too late at this point, but if you're watching and you want to join us, let us know. We'll see if we can bring you in. If we possibly can, we will. We should have mentioned that a little bit earlier.
No, we can't. We're trying to get off in 5 or 10 minutes. We're not bringing a new person.
Not today, maybe tomorrow.
But other days, get on the call early and hit us up. And if it's a conversation that you really want, especially if it's just the two of us, and you're like, they need a third person. We agree. Some days I wasn't able to talk to anybody because I barely got any time because I'm not at home. So we weren't able to get anybody for today, or did somebody drop out? I don't know. Whatever happened, here we are. And if you ever see that and you want to raise your hand and pop in, especially if you want to talk about the conversation that we're having,
that's right.
That'd be really cool. If you have another conversation that you want to have with us, let us know. And go to tellmanandfellman.com and write back to the email that you get from there and let us know as well. That's another way to do it. So
I'm really curious if you guys are listening, if you're paying attention, like what your thoughts are on the importance of community in your life and in what you're learning, especially online. I'm thinking more along the lines, Harris, of like a good sports coach, like in high school or college, or like I actually had a really good conversation with one of our customers the other day, who is a minister, a pastor at and he was thinking about putting together a summit with interdenominational pastors, who following the automatic audience model to do that. And it was really, and so when you think about when I talk about like being a leader, I mean like being a leader of an actual community of people that you actually care about and are actually going to help out in any way you can when they're having a hard time. Leader,
a real leader with a capital L. Yeah.
Totally.
You make me think. Also, you mentioned sport. I like the sports analogy. A good coach, or even like
teacher,
I guess gym.
Right?
I'm thinking of a team, but it can even be like a gymnast coach. Like they even though
team or one-on-one, depending on the nature. Yeah.
But still, it's a community of the other gymnasts and stuff like that.
Right.
And then you made me think of like and I don't think I've had much of that, to be honest, in my life. You made me think of a military leader, somebody that pulls somebody through boot camp. Obviously, if that's what you signed up for, from what I understand,
right.
From what I understand, it develops amazing camaraderie and mental toughness and fortitude. That's what that community communities, not, I don't know if they would use that word, but that's what that group does. And then what else? Yeah, I like the pastor reference, especially one that's talking about bringing people together from an interdenominational aspect. What about does anybody have that? And does that exist in internet marketing? Really, I guess probably in pockets.
Oh yeah, virtual churches totally exist. I mean, I walked him through this whole awesome model.
I meant is there a leader in the way that we're talking about in the internet marketing space? Like, is there any gurus?
I mean, there are. You know what? Interesting. I'll tell you what happened is, interestingly enough. So I had this conversation with this guy, and then I immediately saw a Facebook ad like later that day advertised to me about building your church with direct response marketing, and I opted into the email list because I wanted to see what he was doing. But it was just so funny. And so if there's ever any question about whether or not you're being listened to, the answer is yes, you're being listened to.
What way were you how were you communicating with him?
On my phone. Just phone
Like
number,
like a voice call
voice
or
call,
WhatsApp? A
voice
voice
call.
call.
Yeah. And within hours, I've never done searching online for
Virtual church, yeah.
virtual churches before, but I have several ministers. I've had several ministers in my family of the Lutheran
Yeah.
church, and I grew up going to Sunday school and stuff. So, yeah, and at one point there was the possibility that I was going to go to ministry school, which would have been interesting. But I so I
Sorry,
thought,
my brain is going crazy over like how did Facebook get the data of a conversation that you had? I'm not
oh,
doubting you.
really?
I'm believing
I
you. I've
mean,
heard
I
it
don't know.
before.
I see Facebook listening all the time to my conversations.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay, sorry.
and
Sorry.
serving me
That's an
ads.
advertising question. Like, you know,
Yeah,
when
no, it's messed up.
right?
Messed up.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
talk about like, oh, what's that Minority Report where you walk by a sign, an ad, and it's directed straight at you, and
right.
yeah. But it didn't go as far as like a conversation they were just having, and then all of a sudden it was like, "Would you like a divorce lawyer?" You
That's right.
know.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it's pretty
So I wanted,
unbelievable, right?
do you have any more thoughts on that? I was gonna say, as far as community, things going in the direction of community, some of the benefits, what are some of the other benefits? There's also like kind of a sense of belonging that is created as well, and there's continuous interaction. It's not that that one way thing that you were talking about
So
earlier.
here's what happens, I think, right? I mean, like I'm in the early stages of exploring this, but I think what's happening in my head is that I'm realizing, oh, I like I've thought about starting intentional communities to live in, like intentional communities of entrepreneurs, and I've I remember in college I studied intentional communities, and I've been to visit a few of them, and I've thought about community on a literal human physical living level, but now I'm thinking about it in relationship with my business, right? And I mean, I've been a member of school for a while, but like I had kind of forgotten about it. And we are us talking about it kind of reignited my interest in it. And so I've been going through a ton of training and videos in school. And what I think I'm seeing, and school isn't the only option, right? But it seems to be a good one, especially if you're a marketer, right? Is I think that what's happening is people are lonely, isolated, and more people now than ever are working from home. We know that as a result of COVID. And so people are adapting to a lot more alone time
Right.
and a lack of connection in their local communities because they're not working as much. As digital nomads become more and more prevalent, which is a thing that many people seek. That type of freedom to be able to travel the world. It
Yeah.
also detaches you from community,
Yeah.
right? And so I think what's happening is when people find a leader and a community that they can resonate with and that they feel like they're part of and accepted in and encouraged and supported with their hopes, with their dreams, with their aspirations, even if they're batshit crazy, like whatever it is that the regular people in their life aren't going to support. I feel like that's a comforting place for people to go and a place where they can make genuine friends, make genuine connections, and start and grow their businesses with.
Well,
And
I mean, we started off talking about the election, and quite frankly, like it or not, community is responsible for, the current movements that happen politically.
right, well, I mean,
I don't want to point to one side or the other, because I don't really want to bring that in to the conversation, but for sure, like the well, okay, so I had to think of one for both sides. So you've got kind of the MAGA movement, which is people. There's some people that are in groups and Reddit groups and subreddits and whatever, and they know each other. They know a language. I mean, QAnon kind of spawned out of that and everything. And
right,
then you've got women, that are really more, supporting for women's rights and supporting on the other side, that I think that they have really organized around, you know, some communities that were already existing to you know, fight what happened.
Yeah, but a common enemy always bands people together, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know that. Yeah, sure. But anyway, my point is that those are communities, and that exist. There's, you know, sure, leaders in that community, but there's also sub leaders, right? There's not just Trump and Harris, but there's the people that are leading all of these little individual communities or locals or whatever. So, there's a ton of power in it. So listen, I'd like to try to cut the conversation unless you have any more thoughts. But I do want to say I really, really, really want to do. I thought we were going to do the more history of direct response, and what I was really excited about was to talk about the future, some of the ideas that of where it's headed, which, you know, Chat GPT did not predict what you predict, which is, you know, that what we think of as selling online, you know, has that. But I think it's pretty interesting what it did predict. But I'd like to leave that as a cliffhanger for the next time that we don't have a guest. I think we can still talk about that and continue this conversation.
Great. Yeah, for sure. You know, I guess what I would say, Harris, is to wrap it up, is whether you're building an email list, old school style, or whether you're building a more interactive list like a community, I would encourage you not to start communities. I would encourage you to find a movement or community, a group of people that you're part of that already exists, where you feel that you can provide knowledge, leadership, encouragement, support to a section of that community. Rather than trying to start a community, start something within a community you're already part of. And I think you're going to get a lot faster traction, and that you're going to have a lot more confidence because you're already part of the community, and that people won't see you as a fraud because you're actually trying to do something to help a group of people that you're already part of.
That's great advice. That's really great advice.
It makes things a lot easier.
And you won't feel imposter syndrome.
It doesn't mean you can't start a community and you can't start something from nothing, but really it's very, very hard and usually doesn't work. Right. So, all right, rock and roll. Well, this is episode 53, and happy election day.
Good luck, everybody.
Well for everybody.
Somehow.
Right. That's right. We'll see you guys soon.
All right, take care.